Sure.
Joining us now, Democratic Congressman Ted Lieu of California. He serves on the House Judiciary and Foreign Affairs Committee. Okay, I want to get to Kellyanne Conway's argument here, but first, what we just heard her say, I paused when she said that you have to take responsibility for your own actions. Let me just say that the quote is, you have to be responsible for your own conduct in a situation like this, admitting that she herself is the victim of sexual assault. I don't know how to describe my reaction to that, but it made me sit up straight, and I didn't feel right with that. What's your reaction to that?
Thank you, Alex, for your question. My heart goes out to all sexual assault victims, and we just have to reduce the number of these assaults across America, whether it's the public sector or private sector. I don't know about Kellyanne Conway's own personal experiences, but I do think this is a good educational moment for America, where people are learning about sexual assault, why 2/3 of victims don't report, the costs of reporting socially and emotionally. And I think hopefully the silver lining to all of this is we are more aware of how this evil act is.
What do you make of Kellyanne Conway's argument that the sexual assault allegations against Brett Kavanaugh are being conflated with other allegations, including those leveled against President Trump?
They are not being conflated. Dr. Ford gave very compelling testimony under oath that she was sexually assaulted by Brett Kavanaugh. That is one of the issues in this confirmation process. And I just have to reiterate again, this is not a trial. It is a job interview. There is no employer in America that would hire a job applicant who has a credible allegation of sexual assault and then during the interview yells at you and makes false statements. No employer hired that job applicant. There are other far more qualified people now for the Supreme Court. They should nominate someone else.
Let's take a listen to what Senator Chris Coons of Delaware had to say about the FBI one-week background investigation into Kavanaugh. Here it is.
I support it being 1 week. That's what a compromise is all about. I would have liked longer, right, but 1 week I think was a key compromise and commitment here.
What are your thoughts on the compromise? Do you agree with Senator Coons? Is it a fair compromise?
I do. The FBI has vast resources. They can certainly interview the relevant witnesses and gather the relevant information if they were not limited in their scope. So if this investigation does not result in the interviewing of all the women accusers who have accused Brett Kavanaugh, it will be an incomplete investigation, and that's going to cause more problems for the White House, more problems for the confirmation process. So they should just have the FBI interview Julie Swetnick as well as all the other accusers, interview the relevant witnesses who have contradicted Brett Kavanaugh, and then the Americans can have a good process to go forward with.
But Congressman, the reporting that you may have heard right at the top from Jeff Bennett at the White House in association with Ken Delaney in here, it would seem Julie Swetnick will not be interviewed, nor, according to the reporting, off the list former classmates who have contradicted Kavanaugh's account of his college alcohol consumption, describing him as a frequent heavy drinker. They will not be allowed to speak with those. So how thorough of an investigation can this be?
The American people are going to want a thorough investigation. The American people are going to want to have these witnesses interviewed. So at this point, they haven't been interviewed yet. My hope is that they will be interviewed, because if they're not, you're going to have the same exact problem that they had before this FBI interview, which is, why are you not interviewing relevant witnesses? Why are you hiding some witnesses from the American people? And it really makes no sense to me that if they're going to have this FBI interview, they need to do it right.
I know that you were quite critical of Kavanaugh's performance. You expressed that on Twitter, saying that he was lying during key parts of his testimony. Here's some of what you wrote. His lies under oath were not little lies. He specifically lied about Devil's Triangle because it was about sex. He specifically lied about Ralphing because it was about inebriation. He is accused of drunken sexual assault. At this point in your mind, how much credibility does Brett Kavanaugh have?
He has less credibility than Dr. Ford, and that's all it takes. This is a job interview. If you're not comfortable with the job applicant for the Supreme Court, you just vote no. You just have someone else go to the Supreme Court. There are many qualified judges. There's no reason why the Republicans have to stick with Brett Kavanaugh when he has made false statements under oath. And the reason he made these lies, or he was evasive, is they go to the core of his allegation that he had drinking problems and he may have engaged in sexual type activities that were not proper. That's why he was being evasive or lying about those issues when questioned under oath, and that's a problem for any Supreme Court nominee.
Congressman, how do you respond to the Republican leaders who say they believe Dr. Ford was indeed sexually assaulted by someone, but that it was not Brett Kavanaugh?
Then they don't believe Dr. Ford's testimony.
Because she
very
said 100%.
clear. She was 100% sure as Brett Kavanaugh. And when people say that there is no evidence for this, that makes no sense. We routinely in America have trials that are determined based on testimonial evidence under oath. Her testimony is evidence. And in addition, there's a lot of things that corroborate her testimony. One, that Mark Judge is a friend of Brett Kavanaugh. They both drink a lot. They were both in the same area. They had social gatherings where they interacted. There's a lot of corroboration to her testimony, plus the fact that she mentioned this in 2012 and again 2013. She is not some left-wing Clinton conspiracy. And for Judge Kavanaugh to even bring that up shows also why he's unfit to be on the Supreme Court.
We've heard a lot of criticism that Brett Kavanaugh is being is playing a political card here. But the fact is that we know by the sheer nature of the president who picks a Supreme Court justice, nominates them, we know there's going to be a leaning. How fair is the criticism of Brett Kavanaugh that he is very, very, very right?
You just have to watch his testimony in front of the U.S. Senate to know that he is very partisan. But it's beyond that. He believes in conspiracy theories. That is a problem. When you see Dr. Ford's testimony, it's very clear she is not part of some vast left-wing conspiracy. She was sexually assaulted by Brett Kavanaugh. She told people that in 2012, again in 2013. And for Brett Kavanaugh to think that somehow she's part of this conspiracy, again, makes me question what kind of impartiality he could show on the U.S. Supreme Court.
Is that perhaps the best defense for Christine Blasi Ford when she talks about being 100% certain that Brett Kavanaugh was the man who assaulted her, because she was talking about him well before he became a Supreme Court nominee?
Absolutely. It lends tremendous credibility to her story that she privately told her therapist about this sexual assault. But in addition, the whole reason she even had to tell her therapist is because she wanted to put 2 front doors in her home. That's how much that sexual assault bothered her. And for people to somehow say that she's not telling the truth really makes no sense to me. She was the person that was far more credible during the confirmation hearings. And again, this is a job interview. If you even think Dr. Ford could be correct, you do not put Brett Kavanaugh on the court.
Democratic Congressman Ted Lieu of California.